Five, four, three, two, and one. Hey everyone, Patrick here from Patrick Barrett Art. Here with me today, I have David, and he's going to tell us how he went from production coordinator to producer. He's ended up working on such shows as Borg Adventure, Spider-Man 2, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. David, why don't we start off with this? Could you please introduce yourself and let everybody know a little bit about your background?
Sure. My name is David Kenneth. I've been in the entertainment industry for roughly 20 years. I actually started off from a PA, worked my way all the way up to being executive producer of 3 different studios, independent studios. I have a thorough background in animation, visual effects, live action, catering, transpose, pretty much anything that is needed to make a movie. I've done it, and I think that's contributed to being well-rounded.
Oh, well, I almost got a little nervous there hearing all these credits. I was like, oh my God, who am I sitting in front of? Before we met, you were a production coordinator. What was your relationship to art?
It was somewhat, it was in the early stages at that point. And I think, for me, I hadn't acquired an eye for it yet. I was still relying a lot on professionals to tell me what was good and what wasn't, if you want to use those terms. And I was just getting my legs underneath me as far as being able to know who was talented and who wasn't, and how to bring them on a project. So it was at the very early stages of for me to do that.
Interesting. So do you remember when you first saw my artwork, when you came across that?
I remember, because I immediately thought, okay, I need him to help me look good for this project that I'm about to, that I was really put in charge of. And that was the first time I had been in charge of one entire project, of all of the artwork. And I felt like, wow, this guy's going to make me look really good, and I don't really have anything to worry about. And so it was a transformative moment in my early stages of my career.
Really?
Yeah.
So, well, tell us a little bit more about that. What actually happened?
Well, this was not a film or a television show. This was for a location-based entertainment. So this is for a theme park in Orlando for SeaWorld. And it was an attraction that was going to be project a short film onto a giant 20-meter water screen at the lagoon in Orlando. And we had to shoot live action killer whales, orcas down in San Diego. But before we did all that, it required all of the storyboards and the beats to be very specific, very beautiful. They had to sell the scientists that were in charge of the orcas. It had to make sure the studio was happy with the quality of it, and they had to be specific and sharp enough that when we got underwater, everyone knew exactly what they were doing, because it was a very dangerous situation to be in, even for talented and experienced cinematographers and marine cinematographers. So there was a lot kind of hinging on the importance of these boards, and when I saw yours, I saw that there was so much detail, and you had done a lot of the choreographing or camera work that I hadn't, at that point in my career, I wasn't prepared to do. I didn't know, and everyone around me looked at the boards, the shooting boards, basically. They were like, huh, well, this is going to be easy. So and they patted me on the back, and I took all of the credit, and I didn't give any to you until now.
Okay, great. Well, I'm glad it finally came. I've been waiting all these years.
Better late than never.
So I take it, well, now that I am hearing this, so I guess the client was happy. It all worked out for them.
Oh yeah, I mean, that ultimately kind of planted my feet at that one particular studio, and that was the bridge project from being a coordinator to project manager to then producer in a very short period of time, because they saw, oh well, you're acquiring talent to bring into the studio to do work at the highest level, and that's basically the role of any good producer, to do that, acquire it, and then manage it, and then retain that relationship over the years. If you can do all of those things, you're going to be successful. So if you can't do step A, step step B and C are not going to come. That was a big shot in the arm for me. Pretty
it was a life-changing experience.
But absolutely. I mean, I literally remember after that project going to a local pub and having a drink and going, okay, I'm actually starting to get into this game. I'm actually gonna start to be professional now. And that was everything I wanted to do since I was 5, is make entertainment, entertain people. I mean, when I was 5 years old, I imagined being interviewed by someone in the press saying, wow, this is an amazing project. And, at 5, the details are a little foggy, but when I had that project and when that was done and everybody was thrilled and they were like, wow, you really came through, even though we knew you hadn't really done this before. I felt like, okay, now I know I can, because I had already done it. And, that artwork was a massive part of the project's success.
Oh, well, I'm glad that I helped.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was something you wanted to do since you were 5. That's we've known each other now for a while, so now that I've learned, that's a great story. I love that. Well, since then, you've done quite a bit of work. You did some work for some Marvel and DC. You did some stuff for them as well. Am I not mistaken? You actually had to learn. You're not a comic book person, am I correct? Originally, yeah.
That's
so
correct.
You had to learn about these guys. You really you got down and dirty and really learned about these characters. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly true. I faked it for the first few meetings, and then it became very clear that when I started talking to the top nerds in the room, that I had stepped into waters that I was not prepared to swim in. And DC was, I give a lot of credit to DC Entertainment. Every time I would go there into their offices to talk about some marquee projects that we were working on, they just flooded me with comic books. They would point to a wall and say, pick out whatever you want, take it home and read it. And not just to memorize, but they wanted me to learn the stories, learn the heritage of it, and understand the heart and soul of comics. And that was a big changing part of moving into the superhero realm, because you start to fall in love with the characters and the stories and how you learn how rich they are. And I had been a Surface fan for a long time. I remember the very first Batman movie that came out. I thought, man, this is crazy. A comic book is brought to life, but the opportunity to work with, directly with DC Entertainment on a Batman attraction, a Justice League attraction, a Superman attraction, a Green Lantern attraction, those were all simultaneously.
Wow.
Those are big moments in my life as well, where I went, oh, and then they really took me under their arm and they said, hey, we love your work. We know you can produce amazing animation and visual effects in live action. We just let's just make sure you're armed with the heart and soul and the passion of our characters, so that you can shepherd them. And it was fantastic. W Brothers and DC Entertainment were incredibly supportive during the entire process, and at the end of the day, we ended up getting multiple award-winning projects out of it.
Wow. I have to say, if your kids don't want them and you've already read them, don't throw those comics out. I'd like to take them. Speaking of which, you're somewhat of an expert now because you're in the entertainment field. And you did this deep dive into this modern mythology. Why do you think these heroes are so popular? That there's so many passionate fans, there's so many collectors, the general public are just thirsty for these guys. I mean, the Marvel movies that was unheard of. If you told the person 30 years ago the Avengers was going to be the #1 movie, I mean, people would have just right? So, I mean, why do you think that happened? What about these characters, the iconic heroes, makes people want more of them?
I think the transition from page to screen allowed the masses to see what a small group really embraced. So when those characters were brought to life on screen, it had a mass effect because it empowered everybody. It empowered more people, had a much longer reach. So when people see these characters, they're superheroes, but they're still heroes. And that's the thing, is that when people have heroes in their life, something that they can look up to, and they understand that there's substance in addition to style, your heart goes to that, and you start to fall in love. And these characters, the studios are very consistent with, for the most part, with keeping them on brand. And it's just, they get people, when people get touched emotionally, it sticks with them. And now that it's on the screen, it is allowed in the much more a bigger audience to really embrace that. And those fans from 2 to 82 can be moved. And that, I think, is a major driving point for why they're so relevant in pop culture and their household names now, opposed to, a select few that are reading books and giggling to themselves during recess. It's changed the world as we know it.
It really has. I mean, honestly, I read tons of comics, and I had no. I guess I wasn't a deep enough fan. I didn't even know I knew the characters of Guardians of the Galaxy. I didn't know anything about them. It was just, I knew there was a Star-Lord, and that was it. So I can't, that was my favorite one of the Marvel movies. So you're not a comic book guy. Now you've been touched by it. You have your own illustration now. Of you as the comic character. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I have one of the most prized possessions, gifts, if you will, downstairs, and it's an illustration that you did of my likeness as the character Bucky, Captain America's sidekick, if you will. I don't know if that's a term that they want to use anymore, but that's basically what he was always pitched as. Viciously defeating a whole brigade of Nazis in this, what looked like a World War II French town. And it's a beautiful illustration. When I got it, I was completely blown away. The details of how I look and mixed with Bucky, and my physique is fantastic. So that's great. But it was right down to the details of, those were my hands that you put into the illustration. And then there's my face, but it's the rage of the character defeating his enemy. And it was, when I walk by it every day. I mean, every single day I walk by and I stop, and it gives me a moment to kind of go, and that's like a little moment that I have for myself. And again, it's every day I'm in the house, I see it, and it touches me. It really does. It's something that is extraordinarily unique and precious to me, and it's not replaceable. So.
I'm very happy to hear that. I knew you liked it, but I haven't heard these words out of you specifically. So that makes me happy. I need a moment. So
tell you these things because I don't want your head to get big.
Yeah. I am. And a little accent there. I don't know if that came out. So I would say you would recommend me then to others, that others work with me? Would that be a safe assumption? Only say that again?
Only if I don't need you.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Yes, hands down. I mean, there's like you talked about in the beginning of this. When we first met, I didn't really have an eye for artwork the way that I do now. And then since then, I've worked on Academy Award-winning film. I'm just going to toot my own horn for a second. And Academy Award-winning film, 3 Emmy-nominated projects. I have an Emmy nomination myself. I've got over 25 Telly Awards for what it's worth. Worked on a lot of broadcasts and whatnot, and have worked with a lot of amazing people, similar to yourself, a lot of famous people, and which means that just higher pressure. But I've been able to see a world that I hadn't seen before at that time, years and years ago, and now I have. And so would I encourage someone to work with you? I would say if they're looking for something authentic, original, that's passionate, that has heart and soul, yeah. I mean, those are all. I'm kind of asking a rhetorical question, because if you don't want those things, you don't want anything good. So yes, if they want to work, they want something that looks different, but looks genuine and authentic at the same time. And yeah, I would say work with you for sure, without a doubt, hands down, 1,000%.
Is there a specific type of person, or I don't know how you put it, niche, or anything that you think I should that would be a good fit to work with me, or that I'm a good fit for, rather? Let's put it that way.
Well, you know what? You're probably one of the better filmmakers that I know without making as many films as most filmmakers. And I say that because you can frame shots and think about choreography and think about pacing within a scene better than most any director that I've worked with. And I've worked with directors. I worked on Harry Potter, the last installation of Harry Potter. Not to say that David Yates is not an amazing director, but there's an army of people working behind him. But everything that we worked on together, I mean, most directors don't have that insight. And when someone like yourself that is at the top of their game takes the time to start drawing through the scenes, it's, I can imagine it's just nothing but thought about every pen stroke or digital stroke or pencil stroke that you have within the shot. And it forces you to think about it, opposed to saying, well, just put the camera here. And then they go, oh, okay, let's shoot. Oh, put the camera here now, because that's not. And then directing through change isn't really something that you can do when you're thinking about every methodical stroke of how you frame a shot. So you're, as much as a filmmaker, and the need to make most filmmakers look good, you're like a secret weapon, as far as I mean, that's what I've honestly used you for years. And you've always made me look good, look great in front of the guests. We've won awards together, and that's, one or two, maybe by happenstance, but when you have hundreds or dozens and dozens of awards that and projects that we've worked jointly on, that's not by happenstance. So I would say, if someone's looking for someone that has the ability to draw amazing artwork that's heartfelt, also as a filmmaker, understands the cutting process, wants choreography, yada yada yada, yeah, they should definitely work with you if you're available.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Well, listen, hey man, this is I've heard stuff I never heard before, so thank you for this. This has been really fun. Is there would you like to let everyone know out there, where can people go to know more about you and what you do?
You can look me up on IMDb. I'm IMDb Pro under David Kenneth. LinkedIn, David Kenneth. If you have a hard time, one of the bigger credits that comes up is Harry Potter, the last episode of the series, or Green Lantern, the film. So yeah, look me up there, or go to innovateent.com. That's the word innovate, and then ent.com, which stands for entertainment. And you can find me there as well.
All right. Well, great. Well, thank you so much.
Yep.
And thanks to everybody for watching. Till next time. Adios.